Hello students, this is Miss Vaishali Joshi, Assistant Professor in School of Finance and Commerce, Calcutta's University. I welcome you all to this lecture series for the course Organizational Theory and Behavior. The course code is MCOM1001. So this is the first lecture in the series and the name of the topic is Concepts of Organizational Behavior. So let's get started. So let's start the course by defining the term organization. Many authors have given the definition of organization, as you can see definitions by W.R. Scott and Bernard. Now, if I have to explain organization in layman's language, I would say that a group of people contributing their efforts towards certain goals is an organization. Based on the above characteristics of an organization, some of the examples are companies, armies, hospitals. These can be classified as organizations, whereas tribes, families, friendship groups are not organization in the strict sense, since they do not qualify all the three parameters of an organization. We can have a better understanding of an organization if we view it as a system. Now, system theory says that an organization is made up of components known as subsystems. Now, each of these subcomponents has unique properties and relationship with other components of the system. Synergy plays a very important role in systems. So when all the parts of a system come together, the action taken by one part produces far-reaching effect on others. One of the greatest benefits of studying organization from a systems point of view is that it helps in better understanding of complex variables in an organization. Hence, it will give a better idea of interrelatedness and interdependencies within an organization. A system may be either closed or open. So there are two types of systems basically, an open system and a closed system. A closed system is self-sufficient and does not have any interaction with the external environment. But modern organizations are more or less open systems. So an open system is in constant interaction with the environment. So an open dynamic system is characterized by a continuing process of input, transformation and output. An organization gets input from the environment, transforms it into an output which is then supplied to the environment. Now feedback plays a very important role in an open system, and it is basically feedback which differentiates an open system from the closed system. Organization gets feedback from the environment and takes suitable steps to meet the challenges and expectations of the environment. Organizations can be studied from two perspectives. One is micro and the other is macro. Now, a micro perspective considers human being as the focus of study. It concerns itself with each individual's psychological makeup. So basically, micro perspective is concerned with how an individual person is likely to react in a given situation. It is interested in studying how an individual learns, what motivates an individual, and what kind of leadership strategies will produce a certain desired behavior in an individual. All these things are examined in the micro view. This micro view of individuals in an organization is recognized as the discipline of organizational behavior. On the other hand, the macro perspective considers organization as the unit of analysis. Macro perspective is concerned with organizational goals, how organizations are structured, what technologies are used in the organization, so on and so forth. The macro perspective is recognized as the discipline called organizational theory. We are going to look into the definitions of organizational behavior and organizational theory later in the coming up slides. Now let's look at the meaning of the term organizational behavior. It is made up of two words, organization and behavior. We have looked at the meaning of both the terms separately. Now to sum it up, OB is concerned with understanding, predicting and influencing individual behavior in an organizational setting. It focuses on the individuals, groups and the organization and also their interactional relationships. So OB focuses on the behavior at three levels of analysis. First is behavior at the individual level. So organizations are basically made of their individual members, right? The individual is the central figure of organizational behavior. The behavior of individuals is a complex phenomenon. It's affected by a large number of factors such as personality, values, attitudes, motivation, so on and so forth. So OB integrates these factors to provide simplicity in understanding human behavior. Next is behavior at group level. Now, although people interact with the outside world at their individual level, their behavior patterns do get influenced by groups to which they belong. In fact, several research studies have shown that people behave differently in groups than as individuals. And there are several factors which influence these behaviors in groups, such as group goals, group norms, group cohesiveness, to name a few. Now, the third level of analysis is behavior at organizational level. As we all know, organization is a system composed of several interdependent individuals and groups. Individuals and groups operate within the structure of formal organization. It is people who make up the culture of the organization. At times, they may resist change and there can be stress-related issues related to bringing a new cultural change. So all these and many more factors have to be looked from the perspective of the whole organization. So this is how OB studies people at three levels, at individual, group and at the level of organization. Now let's look at the features of organizational behavior one by one. First is a field of study. Now field of OB is backed by theory, research and application with a growing concern for people at the workplace. Second feature is levels of analysis. Organizational behavior involves three levels of analysis of behavior, that is behavior at individual level, at the group level and at the organizational level. Third feature is concern for effectiveness. Now OB is just not about theoretical concepts, it is also an action-oriented and goal-directed discipline. The major goal is to understand, explain and predict human behavior in organizational context so as to improve organizational effectiveness in the long run. Next feature is satisfaction of employees' needs. Now, OB is just not about achieving organizational goals, but it also seeks to fulfill the needs of employees and their aspirations. Next feature is OB is interdisciplinary. Now, the field of OB is highly influenced by other behavioral sciences like psychology, sociology, political science, to name a few. The last but not the least, OB is science as well as an art. So OB includes both science and art. The systematic knowledge about human behavior is science, and the application of behavioral knowledge being the art part. So in one of our previous discussions, while discussing the features of organizational behavior, we had seen that OB is interdisciplinary in nature. So now we are going to discuss all the fields which have contributed to the field of OB in detail. So we will be discussing the field of psychology, sociology, social psychology, anthropology, and political science, and look at their contribution to the field of OB. So we have seen that the field of psychology studies the process of human behavior, which includes learning, thinking, concepts of memory, sensation, emotion, feeling, and personality. Now let's look at some of the psychological concepts which are very much relevant to the field of organizational behavior. So the concepts of perception. Here we will be majorly looking at perceptual errors that a human makes while making decision. Next is theories of personality. Now, some of the famous theories given by psychologists like Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, Myers-Briggs personality theory, Big Five personality factors are key contributions to the field of OB. Next is motivation. Now, some of the theories of motivation like theory X and Y, Maslow's need hierarchy theory, Herzberg's theory of motivation, McClelland's theory of motivation are highly used by managers even today to motivate employees. Next is learning. Some of the theories of learning like classical conditioning, operant conditioning, social learning are relevant to the field of OB as well. These are used to induce employees to behave in a certain way. Next is the concept of values and attitudes, and we study how the attitudes of employees can be changed. Next is job satisfaction, and finally we will also be studying theories of leadership and what are the various factors which influence the kind of leadership that has to be practiced on a set of people. Next is the field of sociology. Now, sociology is mainly concerned with the knowledge about a man's social behavior. It studies the way in which people act towards one another. Now, while psychologists were focusing their attention on the individual, sociologists, on the other hand, study social systems in which individuals fill their roles. Some of the concepts in OB that are inspired from the field of sociology are the concept of teamwork, group dynamics, concept of communication, power and policies, organizational theory, and organizational change. Next is the field of social psychology. Now, social psychology is an area that blends psychology with sociology. So basically, this field of study focuses on the influence of people on one another. The unit of analysis here is group. Now, some of the concepts which are influenced from the field of social psychology are behavioral change, concept of attitude change, communication, group processes, and group decision making, to name a few. Now, next is the field of anthropology. Anthropology basically works on culture and environment and helps us to understand the differences in fundamental values, attitudes, and behavior between people in different cultures and within different organizations. Now, some of the concepts in OB which are influenced from the field of anthropology are the concepts of organizational culture, organizational environment, comparative values, cross-cultural analysis, and comparative attitudes, to name a few. Next is the field of political science. Now, political science is the study of behavior of individuals and groups within a political environment. Some of the topics in OB which are highly influenced from the field of political science are conflict and power. And we are going to study majorly on these two topics in OB.